scent of potpourri, films we commit to memory. Crossing the felt ropes, watching from home on my TV, looking at all my eyes can see. They tell me I view obsessively.
Hello and welcome to the Obsessive Viewer. We're a weekly podcast that covers, oh my God, I don't have my notes up here. Here we go. Okay. This is a disaster. Hello and welcome to the Obsessive Viewer, a weekly podcast reviewing 2 new or recent release titles every episode with an occasional free-for-all segment at the end that we call Potpourri. I'm your host, Matt Hurt, and you can find more of my work, including my written reviews, full episode show notes, and the complete backlog of our episodes and spinoff podcasts at obsessiveviewer.com. You can also follow me on Letterboxd and other social media platforms at the username of Obsessive Viewer. And if you'd like to support us and get access to hundreds of exclusive episodes, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. And if you'd like to support us and get access to hundreds of exclusive episodes, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Recently on Patreon, I have resumed my long walk along walk, which is my project where I am listening to the audiobook of Stephen King's The Long Walk, a few chapters at a time while walking trails around Indianapolis, and then recording my thoughts while also walking trails in Indianapolis. So I now have 5 episodes up of that covering 13 chapters, and I have 2 more episodes to go covering the remaining 6 chapters, I think. Or 5 chapters, actually. That's over at Patreon. I'm also working on a Patreon potpourri episode that is going to be on Patreon that is covering the Hell House LLC franchise that I wanted to get out in October, but did not get it finished. But I got like half of it recorded. And I also have immediate reaction recordings for The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, Frankenstein, and A House of Dynamite. And I have a bunch of other stuff up there. So once again, you can sign up at Patreon at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer for all that and a bunch more content. And in the name of Patreon, I've decided for the time being to try live streaming the episode recordings to Patreon. So any paid or free Patreon supporter gets access to the live streams, and they get to watch me fuck up everything for half an hour before I start recording. So that is this is being live streamed on Patreon right now. So yeah, that's another kind of thing. And if you sign up on the free tier, the free membership, you also get some free stuff like my Gotham Project episode 0 thing, and the Heartland Film Festival coverage, and a couple of exclusive episodes, and more to come. So that is at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. If you want to support me without messing around with Patreon or just make a donation, you can always buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/obsessiveviewer. Whew, okay. So later in the show, we're going to be reviewing the new Scott Derrickson horror sequel, Black Phone 2, in this week's secondary review. But before that, we're going to go over some movie news. Again, I don't really have anything. And Indianapolis screenings before reviewing the new Yorgos Lanthimos movie, Bugonia, in this week's feature review. And joining me this week is returning guest, who can be followed on Letterboxd at the handle of Keegan King 89. It's Keegan King. Welcome back to the show, Keegan. How's it going? How's life?
It's going great. Thanks for having me back.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you for joining me. And as you said before we began, thank you for being a guinea pig for the live stream. So I usually ask or I usually highlight film stuff that people have done, but you don't write anywhere or anything. You're a civilian. So
I just like to watch movies.
Yeah. Is there anything that you want to highlight in terms of movies, like what stuff you've watched recently that we're not going to be covering in this episode?
I don't think so. I don't.
Okay.
Just whatever I've most recently seen, I usually just review on
Sweet.
Letterboxd. So
Nice. How
Yeah.
are you liking Letterboxd so far? Because I know that you are a recent convert
I
due
just
to
got it because
needing.
of you,
Yes.
and yeah, it's great. It's just way easier to track stuff than having a spreadsheet in Google Sheets. So
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Nice. Well, in lieu of self-promotion, do you have anything to promote? Okay.
nope, just
Nice.
me.
All right. Well, I will go ahead and bear the brunt of the promotional side because I actually have a couple of things to promote.
Okay.
Yeah. So the like this was Friday, I think, or no, Saturday. This past weekend, if you're a fan of my voice, then you had ample chances to listen to me drone on about stuff. As I was a guest on my friends Andy and Logan, their Odd Trilogies podcast. I was previously a guest for their Shakespeare Kurosawa trilogy. And I came back for the Twilight of Kurosawa, where they had me on to talk about the last 3 films of Akira Kurosawa: Dreams, Rhapsody in August, and Metadeo. I had such a blast over there talking about Kurosawa with them. It's great. So go check it out. Go subscribe to Odd Trilogies. I'll put a link in the show notes and everything. My episode is episode 112, but you should also listen to the 111 episodes before that as well. Not in chronological order. Just listen to mine first and then you go back. But that's at oddtrilogies.com. And I was also a guest making another second appearance on a podcast on the Short Bites podcast, a Stephen King podcast hosted by my friend and Patreon supporter Jason White. He had me on to talk The Ledge. One of my favorite and the most anxiety-inducing short story from Stephen King's Night Shift collection. It's awesome. So check that out at Short Bites. Link in the show notes and everything. And yeah, that's what I've been up to recently. That and Patreon and living life. But I also want to highlight some things that are happening in Indianapolis. Much to the I know that Keegan, I know that you're not going to be too terribly interested in this or anything, but in Indianapolis, I'm also going to add your last name there. So, okay. Anyway, in Indianapolis, coming up at Alamo Drafthouse, we have obviously the first and third Sunday of every month is movie trivia with my friend Lou Harry runs it. It's great. It's amazing. Go check that out the first and third Sunday of the month. And we also have this weekend at Alamo Drafthouse, they're playing The Descent and Annie Hall as a commemorating the passing of Diane Keaton, of course. And that's what's playing at Alamo. Over at the Can, as I said last week, they are screening, they're hosting, they're the venue for the 25th annual Indianapolis LGBT Fest that runs November 7th through the 9th and then plays on 11th and the 13th. Go check that out, cancanindy.com for more information. Also at Can, they are doing once again, their Noir-vember series, where they're having famous classic noir films playing that are introduced by local film buff person, film aficionado, cinephile, Julia Risi. So that is at Can throughout November. Link in the show notes. And finally, at Keystone Art, next Tuesday, November 11th, they're showing Weird Science for the Retro Replay series. So that's what's going on in Indy. Yeah, Keegan, any thoughts on that?
That's great. I will say, just as an aside, I did spend my early years, like 3 to 5, in Indianapolis. That's where I lived.
Oh, really? I did not know that about you.
For just a really short time, yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Before I came to Pittsburgh, yeah.
Nice. Okay. So you're an Indianapolis native. Okay, yeah.
Once upon a time.
Yeah. And Paige in the live stream has said that she's either telling me to blame the chaos on the time change, or she is giving me the out to tell me that it is the time change. So yes, the time change, which I do have a funny story about that, and I'll get back to the actual episode and everything here in a moment. But so I'm also this whole chaos also has to do with the fact that my phone completely died 2 nights ago. I woke up about an hour before my alarm to my phone just automatically factory resetting itself, completely unprompted, completely like no idea why. No, just no idea. And my iPad keeps, there we go. So anyway, so my phone just completely crapped the bed. It automatically factory reset. Couldn't, like, it's toast. Like, I can't do anything with it now. It keeps cycling through, turning off and on. So I'm going to get it upgraded and everything probably tomorrow. But anyway, all that's to say, the thing that actually initiated me waking up was Pizza, my cat, pawing at my face. And it took me all day to realize that I think that she was doing that because it was an hour before my alarm was to go off, and it was daylight savings time. So it was the time that my alarm usually wakes her up and pisses her off. So she thought, like, oh, he's going to be late. So she decided to wake me up instead. Yeah, so that is the pizza update for this episode.
Well, at least you have a guaranteed alarm clock in the future if you
that is
slept
true.
through it or something.
That is true. That's a good spin on it. I like that. Yeah. So anyway, movies. I don't really have any movie news or anything. It's been kind of a hectic time here at Obsessive Viewer Studios, but yeah, I just want to reiterate, go watch those movies at the various movie houses here in Indianapolis. And if you're in Pittsburgh, look for cool independent theaters there too. So yeah. Okay. So Keegan, we're going to be talking about Bugonia and Black Phone 2. Are you ready to just dive into the feature review of Bugonia?
Sure.
All right, perfect. So, of course, we're going to do a non-spoiler review followed by a spoiler review. For those in the live stream that I can't see right now, we, of course, will be doing a non-spoiler review, and then when we switch over to spoilers, we're going to play a clip from the trailer. And if you're listening after the fact or watching after the fact, I will put timestamps in the show notes and description of the video to help you navigate around those spoiler sections and everything. So having said all of that, let's go in to our feature review of the evening for Yorgos Lanthimos' Bugonia. So this movie is in theaters right now. It was released in theaters, I believe. IMDb says October 31st, but I think it was a little bit earlier than that. I think it was the week before. But the premise, according to IMDb, is two conspiracy-obsessed young men kidnap the high-powered CEO of a major company, convinced that she is an alien intent on destroying planet Earth. Director for this movie was, of course, Yorgos Lanthimos, and he also wrote the script based on the original screenplay for the original film, Save the Green Planet, I believe, from 2003, which was written by Zhang Jun Wan. And the cast includes Jesse Plemons, Aidan Delbus, and Emma Stone. So, Keegan, before we get into the nitty gritty of the of Bugonia, how do you feel about Yorgos Lanthimos as a filmmaker, and what's your kind of history with his movies, and what were your expectations and anticipation level for Bugonia?
I've seen just a couple. I saw The Lobster back in the day. And then I saw Poor Things, I guess, last year or 2 years ago, I guess. So I was excited to see this. I guess in a weird way, you you sort of know what you're gonna get in a weird way that I mean the movies are so absurdist, but you sort of know what you're gonna get in like a Yorgos movie, I guess, by this point of like you can sort of see where it's gonna go in a like a sad or weird or bad way.
Mhm.
But while the ride to get there, I guess, is the whole fun part.
Yeah. It's so interesting you say that because Yorgos Lanthimos for me has been very much a just kind of a weird like this is very reductive of him, but or toward him, but he's a weird guy. Like his movies are freaking weird.
Clearly, yeah.
Yeah. And like I it's to the point where I basically I haven't actively avoided his work, but the movies that I've seen have made me think like, okay, well, he's got an interesting vision, he's got an interesting style, but he's also not really the kind of filmmaker that I'm going to really follow, completely. Like I'm not going to be a huge stan for him. And it's interesting because I come to that realization after seeing like Dogtooth before The Favorite, and then The Favorite comes out, and I really liked The Favorite. And then you've got Poor Things, which I really liked Poor Things. And then Kinds of Kindness came out, and I never saw it. So I missed out on that. And in the interim, like having missed a Yorgos movie, now I got to Bugonia, and I'm like, okay. I mean, I'm back in that, like, okay, he's weird. I don't know if I'll like connect with it. And then I saw it and we'll talk about it. But yeah, but that's a weird roundabout way of saying that he's a weird guy. I appreciate his style, but it's also sometimes maybe not really for me, to the point that I didn't see The Lobster, which I think would be a movie that I would really connect with. So I'll have to
Quite
circle
something.
back to that.
I would say you'd be a very, not to be like derogatory to people, but you'd be a
Mhm.
very specific kind of person
Mhm.
if you were the kind of person who is like midnight releasing for Yorgos Lanthimos movies.
Yeah.
That would it takes a lot out of you to watch one of these.
It really does. It really does. And he's someone that it's really interesting though. Like it's not just weird, creepy or weird like contrarian style or anything. Like he has some really good points to make and some really good stories to tell. Which is also interesting because Bugonia is a remake of the Save the Green Planet from 2003. I think it's a South Korean movie, which I've never seen. And I've talked to our friend Brent about it, who has seen it. And I'm like, when we get to the spoiler section, I'll talk more in depth about it. But I have some very, very big opinions about this movie, about Bugonia. So,
So
yeah. So what did you think about it, Keegan? And also, before you get to that, I just want to catch up with the chat. Just saying that Paige said good pizza or bad pizza, and Ronald, who I'm not sure if he goes by Ronald or Ron. It's kind of a Robert in Utah kind of situation, because I think Robert in Utah goes by Bob, but I've only ever called him Robert in Utah. So Ronald in wherever he is, I can't remember. He said cats are good alarm clocks, which I agree with. Anyway, your thoughts on Bugonia, Keegan?
Yeah, it like you said, it like it's so interesting because I guess this being a remake, there was already like a thought there, but like you said, like he sort of has an idea, like even just a kernel of a plan to which ends up telling a really big and meaningful and sometimes like this one very poignant. Sometimes it's just a beautiful story.
Mhm.
And then it's just like the sort of way the worlds that like are built here are so, they're all just like so absurdist. They're so not real what a real world is. And I kind of love that is like, it's not like a movie where you're going in and you can sort of like relate to some of the points you can relate to, but you can't relate to like the characters or like even the world, especially in like The Lobster. Even like the way people talk to each other isn't even like the way normal people speak. And so it's, I do love that it's just like I guess the title for Save the Green Planet makes more sense as a title. Um, and that's sort of the fundamental crux of it. And then it really spirals a lot from there and turns into a onion there, I guess.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's really interesting because when it comes to talking about this movie as a remake, which again, I've not seen Save the Green Planet. And I'm going to probably hopefully this isn't going to be too like encroaching on the spoiler discussion. I'm not going to spoil the movie, but there's this interesting thing that I had in my head after the movie. So I came out of this movie thinking, oh, this is a 4.5 star movie. It's in contention for my top 10, and like that's full stop. Like I really liked it. And we'll talk about it in more detail as we go on with the review. But as we as I'm kind of reflecting on it, I'm thinking about how Save the Green Planet is a Korean film from 2003. This is a movie in 2025 made by a Greek filmmaker. I don't know I don't know if he has if he like lives in the US or anything or whatever. But this movie definitely has a lot of themes going for it about conspiracy theories, obviously, and the echo chambers therein, and the, rise of internet echo chambers and people just going batshit insane over the most batshit insane things.
Yeah.
And the thing that I couldn't help, or the thing that I'm having trouble reconciling with this movie, or the thing that I'm curious about enough to see the original, is that I feel like with Save the Green Planet being in 2003, it also, from what I understand, delves into conspiracy theory and things of that nature, and is more satirical and is more comedic. But that is also a time where I feel like 2003 wasn't as big as 2025 in terms of conspiracy theories and people like killing people over conspiracy theories and stuff. Like, I feel like there's an interesting read there that I'll talk more about that in spoilers, but all that's to say, I think that this movie does a really good job of navigating that conspiracy wall. So the movie begins with the two guys, Teddy and Don, kidnapping Emma Stone. And what I really like about that, the way that the movie, especially that first half of the movie, the way that plays out is so calculating on both sides, really. So we get a lot of buildup of them preparing for the abduction, and they are talking. Like, Donnie is kind of a slow-witted person. He has it's heavily implied through his demeanor and everything. He has some kind of developmental issues. And Teddy is someone who, as the movie kind of progresses, we learn more and more is kind of traumatized by some grief and some issues in his life, and also some stuff in the past that's alluded to that we'll talk about in spoilers. But when you get the combination of those two guys and Emma Stone after they've abducted her and they're holding her captive, it's so, like, the biggest strength of the movie is that dialogue where she is trying to have a dialogue with them. And I was so just taken with that because she's aware of the echo chambers. She's aware of the shields and the world that he's in. And she's trying to kind of push through that to get to him. And I think that there's some really good dialogue there. And then the movie kind of escalates from there, and it's interesting, but we'll talk more about that in spoilers. But Keegan, what did you think of the conspiracy theorist aspect of it, and how it played out in terms of at least that first half of the movie, basically?
Yeah, I agree with you on like the dialogue part of it too, and I thought it was really interesting that like at some points you almost even the echo chamber conspiracy nut guy, the way that the way the dialogue is, it's written, the writing is just amazing. The way that they talk to each other. I mean, they're using like words and vocabulary that I've never heard of, and it even gets to some points in there that even he's making, like she'll make a very like Barbie comment right at him, and then sometimes he'll deflect it with like equal like vigor back to her. And I think that that's really interesting, and I really liked the balance between her ability to like get under his skin and have him actually engage in a dialogue versus her saying even like the smallest thing that was a complete trigger, and he would get go completely off the rails. And it's like, I mean, I guess you see that a lot nowadays. It's like two people can argue about the stupidest thing on Twitter or whatever forever, and then four back and forth comments go through, and then one word, and then somebody's calling somebody names or something, and then it just like degrades. And I really like that it's like really quick to go between very good, like clean debate, then pick up a chair.
Yes, absolutely. That it needles that thread of tension and really, really smart dialogue in terms of showcasing the divide between them and the awareness of that divide between them, in terms of whether or not she's an alien or whether or not he's just completely batshit insane. It's really compelling, especially in that just first half of the movie. It's so compelling because you get the sense that he has so much conviction for this thing that, again, is batshit insane. He puts a timetable on it where there's a lunar eclipse in 4 days, and they need to keep her alive so that she can take them to her mothership, so that they can be the representatives for the human race to broker a deal. Like, that is batshit insane. And the way that she is able to just kind of navigate that in the early parts of the movie is really satisfying to me, because I feel like that is it's calculating, but it's also something that's really well, okay. This is gonna make me sound like I'm, talking, like patting myself on the back, but like, and it's also probably a little weird, but like sometimes I will think, I wonder what I would do in this type of situation. I wonder what I would do, like, not even when I'm watching the movie, just thinking like, okay, what if I'm getting mugged? What if someone is mugging me? Like, what if someone is trying to like abduct me or something? Like, how would I try to de-escalate things to the point where it would be, I think for the most part, it would be something that's me trying to de-escalate it so that they're not, physically harming me. Because I'm not too good with the mental manipulation. But anyway, so having said that, I could see a lot of myself in Emma Stone in this movie. um, because that's the kind of way that I would react to it.
I do like that she has like a clear like an outline, like a one. This is how I'm gonna fight this first. If
Mhm.
not this, then two. Then maybe I'll give in to what he's saying. Then maybe I'll backtrack 3 or 4 times. It's like it's like it's exactly what you said. It's like, if
Yeah.
I were to get mugged first, I'm not gonna fight back. Okay. Second, talk to him. Third, give him what he wants for, and that's kind of clear in this one.
Yes. Yep. An update from the chat. Ron said that we're free to call him Ron from Miami. And Paige said that she would annoy them until they're happy to be rid of me. Which, honestly, I mean, that's not a bad strategy. I mean, I would basically be telling them to subscribe to my podcast from the moment that they are like, I'll give you guys whatever you want. Just please rate and review on Apple Podcasts and everything.
You got to be like one of those YouTube guys who
Yes.
smash that bell, smash the bell.
Smash that bell, not my head, please. But obviously, like with this type of movie, there's a lot more being said than just like, oh, billionaire abducted. Like, this is another in a long line of Eat the Rich movies that have come out over the last decade or so. And I do find that despite it being a remake of a movie that I've not seen, but despite being a remake, it is a unique spin on that compared to the other Eat the Rich movies that we've seen. I believe that I believe that there's like a second writer on this. Yeah, there was. I said Yorgos Lanthimos, but there's another writer on this. I'm so sorry, but it's the writer of The Menu.
I did not. That's fun.
Yeah, I believe that that's the case, but I'm too terrified to look it up because I don't want to lose all of the connection like before. But anyway, yeah, like I can see a lot of that in this, that satirical like black comedy aspect of it. And
you are right about it.
Nice. Awesome. And what is the writer's name? In case he's
His
watching.
name is Will Tracy. He was editor-in-chief of The Onion, which makes some sense too.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Okay. Interesting. So anyway, Will Tracy adapted the script as well. I think he's the sole like writing credit. I don't know why IMDb lied to me. But anyway, he adapted it in a way, and he wrote this in a way that it is really steering into the differences between the billionaire class and the worker bees of society. And so much so that I found it so interesting how throughout the movie, and this is I'm not going to spoil it or anything, but throughout the movie, you can see how Emma Stone's character is navigating this, but also finding ways to, not intentionally, and in some cases somewhat intentionally, but for the most part unintentionally, kind of showing us why she's not a great person. Like it does this really good job. It does this really good job. There's a pull quote. It does this really great job of demonstrating how different the like billionaire class is, and how unfeeling, how basically they are. It's making a statement that there's I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's making a statement that they're as uncaring as people would suspect, or out of touch, and it does such a great job of showing that to us. Does that make any sense? That's a word salad if I've ever done one.
Yeah, I was thinking when you were saying that about like a very powerful dinner scene that they have, and it's sort of, while like they can fundamentally agree on like a major point that's actually really like salient. I mean, it's obviously an entire part of the movie, but they can agree on like one major aspect of that. The way that they like dialogue about it is like Jesse Plemons is a lot more like emotional and like comes from his heart and his insane brain, some of those thoughts, while she kind of comes off as just like fact and fact and fact, and this is why we agree on this point, rather than like they do find like commonality in that during that dinner scene, and then it goes off the rails because of like what you said. She's saying things that are like, this is a truth, this is a truth, and this is a truth, and he's like, no, it's not, no, it's not, no, it's not. And yeah, her kind of attitude is what sort of spins that scene out of control.
Absolutely. It's this very, it's a tightrope that she's navigating and he's navigating. Like, she's still trying to feel out where, like, where's the line? Like, like how to navigate this. That comes at a very interesting point in the movie as well, because it's at a point where she's working on him in a way that is trying to get an upper hand. I'll say that much. And it's still a very, very tense moment. Also, they're eating spaghetti and I was really hungry. So like, I was like, yeah, I'm going to make some freaking spaghetti. But anyway.
They eat a fair amount of that in that scene too. They
do.
Kind of going in. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, this movie is really interesting to me because it is also very much of its time now, because of, the way that some people have conversations on social media to no avail, to nothing. And it's so interesting to me because, like, in that first act where she is trying to feel out where he is, and like she's trying to basically get ahead of, like, basically cutting through the bullshit of it all and saying like, hey, you're in an echo chamber, you're crazy, you've been fed this narrative, like your worldview is not correct, but you have just done something, like now the entire world is going to be looking for you because I'm a very powerful person. Like, I can understand the logic of that, but it also is very much a little bit of hubris there as well. But the point I'm getting at with that is that the way that she talks to him and the way that she tries to cut through that feels very much like how it is to talk to someone who is of like a staunchly opposite viewpoint, politically or socially or humanely, than you, and just knowing that it's a losing battle. Like, there's no way to cut through that. There's no way to, like, showing them empirical evidence of the worldview that they hold being just patently false, wrong, and having their opinion or their position not change at all. It has that just immovable object, fast thing moving toward it. That thing. Unstoppable force hitting a immovable object. That kind of thing. And that's what I'm kind of circling around with spoilers, is that feels like such a 2025 thing. That feels like from like 2020 to 2025, and unfortunately beyond, that feels like a very modern thing for us existing in society today. And I'm very curious to check out the original movie to see how it navigates that. But that was the big thing for me that I really appreciated about this movie, is that it definitely captures that, and it's an interesting and unique way to show to do an eat the rich storyline that is, it's still pretty on the nose, any type of story like that is going to be on the nose, like Ready or Not or Knives Out. But this is a unique spin on it. This is a unique take on it, by my count, and I enjoyed it. So,
yeah, now that you're saying it, I am interested to see, because the 2003 movie, because like I do think that the way you said of it being like of the time, I do believe that in like 20 years, if you were to watch this movie, if you were around during this time, this would be, I mean, if you had never seen it or something in 2050, and this is assuming that things were to get better, I mean, slightly
Right.
better or something. If you were to see this movie without ever having seen it, you could go, it would give you, it would feel really bad if you had not seen it and you were seeing it. It would bring you right to this time. It would immediately, you would be like, man, I remember when somebody would reply 11 times to the same comment without getting any feedback or any replies, and they would put 11 straight screeds up on the same thing. It could bring you right to that, and you could say, oh wow, that was 2025. I remember that.
Right.
I wonder if the 2003 one would bring you. I don't. Yeah, now I'm interested to see if it would be like if it would bring you back to. It was such a different time, obviously, but I wonder if it would sort of harken back to being like, yeah, I do remember people acting that way around then, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And there's also the added thing of it being a Korean movie. Like, I don't know what kind of statements it would make about Korea.
Anything in general. Because I was even thinking, I'm like, the first like conspiracy going on was the whole in my life when I was 13 or whatever, was the whole jet fuel of it all.
Yeah.
But like you said, in like Korea, that's not. I have no idea what like the climate was there. What kind of stuff was going on in 2003. So that might be a very good follow up. But maybe I won't watch another movie in between Bugonia and that one and see what happens to my brain.
Nice. Yeah. Let's also talk performances. So how did you feel about the performances overall? I know we've talked about Emma Stone's dialogue and everything. How did you feel about her performing in the movie? And have you seen the Onion thing that shows Yorgos Lanthimos, and like the caption is Yorgos Lanthimos feels like he's one more Emma Stone movie away from getting to hang out with her outside of work.
No, I didn't. I did see the one that was like it was I think it was the Onion too, and it was like a bunch of directors lined up, and it was like they're finally able to work with Emma Stone again, lining up to work with her again.
I love it. But yeah, how did you feel about her performance and Jesse Plemons and Aiden? I can't remember his name, and I don't have it up here. Sorry.
Yeah, Aiden Delbus.
There we go.
I mean, they were. Obviously, especially Emma and Jesse Plemons were amazing. I mean, really, it's a for I don't know, 85 to 90% of the movie, it's a two actor kind of dance, and they're just that. Jesse Plemons is so good as he is, really in everything, but as that kind of nut job lunatic, and the way he just his ability to switch between like angry and sad and confused and happy and like ecstatic and bipolar-ish is just amazing. Emma Stone plays just like this ruthless CEO to perfection. This is a very far comparison, but when I was watching it, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Hard Candy. With like Elliot Page and Patrick Wilson.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that in like some kind of ways, in that Elliot Page is like taken sort of in not abducted, but in a way he is there. But it's really that like a two-way dance in that movie too, where there's really like no one else, and they have to, so like you were saying, there's just like a very tight rope that all the actors in both my comparisons have to walk to make it believable. And it's like this, I mean, it really is like a tension rope. It's like if anybody steps over to the other side in any way, it causes complete chaos, because they're both they're both balanced on it so perfectly. I mean, just throughout. So I mean, they both were amazing.
Totally agree. And that is such an interesting comparison too, because Hard Candy also benefits from the characters in that movie withholding certain pieces of information. Um, and that's maybe kind of the tried and true trope of this type of movie, but this movie also does that particularly well as well. But throughout the run of this movie, there is this, aside from the escalating tension and everything, there's this escalation of just craziness and insanity, and there's this interesting kind of visual thing that I found interesting, and I'll have to talk again about this in spoilers and everything, but um as I said, this is all leading toward the lunar eclipse in 4 days, and each time we get like the title card of like 3 days until the lunar eclipse to 2 days, it's a vision, or it's an image of the world, and each subsequent thing, it becomes more and more distorted until it gets to its final form. And I feel like that's interesting. I'm kind of just saying that in non-spoilers, specifically to make sure that we talk about the significance of that in relation to the ending of the movie. But I do think it's an interesting kind of benchmark, or an interesting kind of just like visual cue to show the ever escalating craziness that's happening. And when we get to, there are violent moments in this movie, it's kind of brutal. It's kind of just it's big. And I find that to be really interesting, because we had those like earmarks throughout the movie of like, okay, this is getting more and more insane. Um yeah, I don't know if I really had anything to follow up on that. What are your thoughts on that, as Pizza is trying to get my sweatshirt?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, it's like it really like ratchets up. Like the movie's like 2 hours on the nose, and you don't really realize like where the time is going. But I don't know how many minutes passed when you get to like maybe like the final day, or like the middle of the second day to the end. It could have been 22 minutes for all I know, and it could have been an hour, the way that like at the stakes like ratchet up there at the end. Like just a lot goes on in a really short period. Like you said, it's like it's insane to start, yes, and then it starts getting like the dialogue sort of goes away and starts bleeding into brutality, and then starts really going from there to like a whole nother level. So yeah, that's a very valid point for like bringing up in spoilers for like what is kind of going on during each day, like starting at plain dialogue and then going to what ends up happening there at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll earmark that for spoilers.
Sure.
But before we get to that, because I feel like there's a lot of dancing around that we have to do beforehand. But when we think about like the backstory of the characters, and in particular the backstory of Teddy, Jesse Plemons' character, there are two significant things. One we'll save for spoilers, but the other is just about his family, and it's alluded to throughout the movie, but it's also something that's slowly uncovered throughout the run of the movie. How did you feel about the development of that backstory and what we learn about it? And then we'll talk more about that in spoilers.
Yeah, I thought that was handled really like nicely. You kind of like understand pretty quickly, and they do kind of do uh at least two, I guess, like like clean flashbacks, which give you, I mean, the way that they kind of place them, um you're sort of like you're gaining some clues. You get a little bit of the info about like the family dynamic and problems and stuff there, but it's handled really like deftly. It's not out and out until it kind of is, and then you'll kind of get like a flashback that is like, here's what's sort of happening. They give you like sort of like a couple nuggets until you find like the piece of cake or whatever, if like a trail to it, and then you kind of get the whole bite. So I thought that was handled like extremely well. Yeah, and then there is the other, the whole other thing.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Do you want to go into spoilers for Bugonia? Because I'm not sure exactly.
It's tough to dance too much around.
It really is. So, to kind of reset and circle back, I said I rated this 4.5 stars out of the theater. I think that I'm going to probably put it down to 4 stars. Just because of some things with the ending. The ending just kind of, there's just something about the ending that just, I'm having trouble reconciling with my view of the movie and everything. But I also did want to mention, shout out to our friend Brent. He he in like a private chat had said, when talking about Jesse Plemons, he just said like, what kind of Andromedon are you? As a play on his Civil War scene. So anyway, shout out to Brent as I butcher his punchline. But I thought that was really good. But yeah, so I will probably rate this or bring it down to 4 stars, but it does make me more interested in Yorgos Lanthimos, and it makes me want to circle back and watch, Kinds of Kindness, despite the, unkind reactions to it. But it makes me curious to follow his career more. Maybe not, like you said, maybe not that like midnight screening stan of him or anything, but it is interesting to see how he has evolved in terms of kind of, and granted, I'm really kind of like looking at this through the viewpoint of like Dogtooth and Killing of a Sacred Deer, which I didn't like. Killing of a Sacred Deer, I thought, again, fucking weird. But but it's interesting to see the trajectory of his movies and how they have become, I don't even want to say mainstream, because it's still not. He's slowly becoming more and more accessible, and in that accessibility, it makes me curious if I will retroactively find the movies that I haven't seen of his, like The Lobster, more engaging, having seen like more modern Yorgos Lanthimos stuff. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's weird to see him become more and more, accessible over the years, to my liking, really. But to each their own. How do you feel about the evolution of Yorgos Lanthimos into the mainstream?
I agree with you. Like that, same thing. Like I haven't seen many in the older ones and stuff, and it does kind of make me want to like see if I know it was like some of those are like borderline like experimental and like so absurd that it's like, it would be interesting to have watched a lot of these newer ones and then go way back and be like, oh, I see how he could have gotten from there to here.
Mm-hmm.
It probably makes sense. Maybe nothing in his brain makes sense, but it is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, or not once again, but another shout out to Odd Trilogies. They're going to be doing a Yorgos Lanthimos episode sometime this month, so be on the lookout for that. I'm not going to be a part of it, but it might bolster me into watching some of his other movies. But having said that, what did you rate it on Letterboxd?
I gave it 4. I think I was the same as you. Probably I would say for like most of it, I was liking it more and more as it was going on. And then I was sort of not hurt by the ending, but it sort of that it was just, we can talk about it later.
Okay.
It's hard to
All
really
right.
talk about that part without, there's no way to dance around that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to go into spoilers for Yorgos Lanthimos's Bugonia. And it looks like Paige in the chat is leaving for that reason. So goodbye, Paige. Thank you for joining us.
I'm going to hit the little boys room while you play the clip from the trailer.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so yeah, we're going to go into spoilers for Bugonia. And once again, we are live streaming on Patreon. Before we get to the actual trailer and everything, I do want to say that, yeah, if you join at the free level or the paid levels, you can get access to live streams as I do them, hopefully with not as much technical difficulties, but yeah, we'll see as we work out the kinks. But Keegan has taken a break. I'm gonna play a clip from the trailer, and then for the live stream, it's gonna be a little bit delayed while I wait for Keegan to come back. But stay tuned.
All we've lost, all that's been done to us, we're setting that right again. Greetings. Welcome to the headquarters of the human resistance.
Where's my hair?
Your hair has been destroyed to prevent you from contacting your ship.
What ship?
Your mothership?
Okay.
All right, and spoilers on for Bugonia. Once again, this is playing in theaters right now, and yeah, so obviously the big thing that we're gonna have to talk about with spoilers with this is the ending. But actually, let's hold off on that for a second. And let's talk about the cop subplot. And how it's very, very heavily implied, to the point that it's a part of it, is that he likely sexually molested Teddy when he was a babysitter 20 years ago. That whole subplot, that whole thing felt very undercooked in a way that really kind of just, it didn't really sit that well with me, but it also was something that I feel like the thing that it was going for was subtlety, and it was going for this kind of like, I don't know if I would say respectful, but like this subtle sort of thing, not exploitative or anything, which I think it does achieve that in a pretty decent way, but it also feels like there's not enough context there. And when it's also competing with the backstory of the family and like his mother being an addict who does this clinical trial for with Emma Stone's company and ending up being, you know, in a coma. Like, I think there's a thing that happens in this movie that basically is trying to keep that pretty contained, but it also doesn't really mesh well with me. So I don't know. How did you feel about that? Those two kind of competing subplots, or those competing backstories for the movie.
Yeah, I actually couldn't agree more there. I think that was another reason why I didn't rate it 4.5. It was like almost like frustratingly present in like parts where the tension was like completely elsewhere, to the point that like Teddy is actually just like brushing it off really quickly, like during the movie. He's like, yeah, no, it's fine, man. Totally. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that there is supposed to be some tension because he's a cop. Emma Stone's in the basement. I understand that part of it, but the like fundamentals of him admitting more or less that he did this to him, and then him just like brushing it off with really no, there would have been really no change if he did or didn't admit that.
Mm-hmm.
the only part that I even had like a light like ability to tie it to anything was sort of his like insistence early on that they get chemically castrated.
Oh yeah.
And I wondered, like, I don't even know if the foresight was so clear there that it meant something in a way that you know, that kind of victimization sort of leads to other issues sometimes, that
Mm,
he sort of said, I need to do this to save myself in a variety of ways. That was like
mm,
the only, and I know that there was other reasons why they did that whole part too, because he knew that Emma Stone may potentially proposition him as a way to get free and
mhm.
XYZ. But I did, that was my only like light thread that went from sort of that beginning piece there to that, like you said, it was just there was no real, there was just no real like fleshing out of that storyline.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do feel like the whole chemical castrating part of it, that I do feel like there's enough there, I think, to kind of understand like the deeper meaning of it, or the rationale behind it, because there's that complete difference between Teddy and Donnie, where he's like you said, he's like, you have to do this, we have to do this, it's for the cause and everything, where Donnie's like, well, I've always wanted to be with someone, I've always wanted to have someone. And like, the kind of quiet tragedy of that, the sadness of that, is that he's he's being brought along on this completely insane, life ruining, and in both of their cases life ending thing. And he doesn't know enough to know better, and there's a tragedy in that, but also the fact that the chemical castration part, the part of just devoting it to that, I think, is an extension of Teddy figuring out his trauma, figuring out responding to the traumatic element of having some kind of very horrifying encounter with an authority figure in his life. And I think that that's an interesting way to kind of expand on that without really bringing it to the forefront and being, like I said in non-spoilers, exploitative, or being um, hitting the nail on the head with it. And so I do respect that, and I do like that. And I do like the way that I think it's Christopher is his name, the way that he uh is like bringing it up. He brings it up a couple of times in the movie, and it's this guarded, not even necessarily guarded way, but it's in this way that's like he's trying to he's trying to comfort Teddy in a way that, like, saying like, I've been thinking about you, not in any weird way, or anything. And then, like, when he is at the house, and he's like, I want you to know I never did that to any other kids. Like, I've never done that to anyone else. I'm sorry and everything. And I do respect and like the way that the movie does have Teddy not respond to him, because I feel like that's enough of a response to not respond to him, um, to the point that when he does respond to him, namely with a shovel, I'm like, fucking good. Okay.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. But yeah, I do like, I think that the problem there's a slight problem in that it is a little too underdeveloped for my taste, just because it's also contending with a more unfurling backstory of his mother and family. Like, I don't even think we even know, like, we don't know what happened to his father that I'm aware of. And like, I don't know what the rest of the story is with that. And I feel like that's maybe an issue with having to tell multiple subtle backstory things and not having enough time.
Yeah. And yeah, it just, like you said, there's enough other like story. There's so much going on. There's enough going on.
Mhm.
It doesn't hurt anything, and it doesn't like detract, but it for me, it just wasn't, it was like less of a value add than really anything else. It was just a kind of another piece to it to me. So it didn't really make me feel any sort of different way. I guess, like you said, though, when he does kind of get the kind of the comeuppance there, you do sort of, you don't really feel bad for him.
Mhm.
So there's
Yeah.
that, but yeah.
It's also really interesting because that also comes at the point of Donnie killing himself. That I think is such a great, like, my qualms with the kind of backstory there and everything aside, it is still a really strong, suspenseful, satirical, black comedy sort of run of events. Having Donnie be basically manipulated in a sense by Emma Stone's character to eventually have him kill himself. That's an interesting stepping stone, no pun intended, stepping stone to the kind of reveal at the end of the movie. But it's interesting to see that we, at least me as in the audience, I was very much like, oh, she obviously didn't mean that to happen. That just got out of her control. And then, like, soon after that, she's manipulating Jesse Plemons and manipulating Teddy into literally going and killing his own mother so that she could have a chance to escape. And it's so interesting to see that escalation, that so much so that I feel like the reveal at the end, which again we'll get to, but the reveal at the end that she is an alien and she's erases all human life, I feel like that's a disservice to that beginning, like, first half of the movie, where it's all about the conspiracy theory stuff. It's about the like, her trying to deprogram Teddy because he's clearly insane. Like, I feel like there's probably a cleaner or more interesting way to bridge the gap between the first part of the movie where it's kind of really diving headfirst into conspiracy theory, echo chambers, chronically online people, bridging it to the point where, we're getting to the point where, like, yeah, there are aliens and stuff, because that leaves a bad taste in my mouth that we'll talk about in a bit. But what did you think of that word salad?
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. It's sort of like, I guess it was like like I was saying at the top, I guess it was like the Yorgos of it all. I was like thinking, I don't, maybe like 30, 40 minutes in, I'm like, so she's an alien then. I'm understanding that. Like, I'm like, I think I get it. Obviously she's an alien by the end of this, but then, like you said, like the way that they act and talk to each other, and like just like scathing and fighting, and to the point where, he slaps her because she corrects like a word he says wrong. And then, like, at dinner, they're arguing about the bees, and that turns into just a disaster when she starts bringing up his mom, and she figures that whole thing out. But somewhere in there, I was like, maybe I'm getting like swerved by my whole thought of the whole thing. So it actually like came back around. I was like, all right, well, I get it. She's like, but I'm not an alien. Okay. All right. So you're an alien, obviously. And then as it like kept going through, and he's like torturing her, we can talk about that too. That was a hard scene to watch, but
yes,
but like as that goes on, and like the more, like, I guess the way that it's built, the more like humanized she is, the more I was like, oh, maybe this is really just going to be like a really like sad sort of way to show like that he was wrong. He was like a little insane about it. And then when she starts sort of discovering all the other people Emma Stone sort of finds that he had sort of dissected a lot of other potential Andromedons or whatever. Then it sort of got to me. I'm like, all right, so this is kind of just a sad kind of like fable or story, whatever that kind of story is that ends in just like a parable or something of don't be so echo chambery or this kind of thing will end up happening to you. You'll end up believing everything that she says. She kowtows him so bad into killing his own mom, and then he's crying on the couch and all this, and it kind of, and I liked that part of it, but then like you said, it all that like building up to me, I was like, oh, he's just a serial killer. He's completely insane. He lives in a cabin in the middle of nowhere with his cousin. All this stuff is leading up to like a nice like bow to say this is bad. She's not good. We know that. She gets hurt her own way. She gets tortured and all this. So she would come out changed too, you would think. So I was like, all right, great. This is it's a tough movie to watch, but lesson learned. And then you know he blows up there in the closet with his vest on or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then she is an alien, and I was like, well, you could have. I mean, it's Yorgos Lanthimos after all, so it was gonna happen. But it just like you said, it was like all that stuff leading up to it. It so many like things I was feeling sort of bad for her even, and bad for him, and just sort of bad for everybody, and kind of. I was like, all right, I learned the lesson that this movie had to tell me. And then they try to tell you like an even bigger one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's putting like too much emphasis on the kind of, I guess, the themes that it's going for. Like having her being an alien kind of bothered me a little bit, because I guess in the broad sense of it all, it does feel like it's making a statement. Like, okay, if it's strictly like an eat the rich story, it's like, oh yeah, the billionaire class, like they're fucking aliens. They're not real people. Like this is they're so out of touch with humanity that they are literally alien life forms. And the point that it's making with her, like basically like telling her council of subjects on the ship that like, yeah, they had their chance, let's scrap it. That's kind of saying like, oh yeah, okay, if we're following this, that the billionaire class or what have you is like an alien life force on the planet, they're also in charge because of that disparity in wealth and everything, with having like untold amounts of money that is like just the thought of it, like just a small tangent, like the thought of like being a billionaire is so fucking weird. Like the idea of like having, if I were to have $1 million show up on my doorstep, like that, my life would never be the same. The entire rest of my life would change like at the drop of a hat. Like every single facet of my life would completely change in that moment. And the thought that there are people who are worth millions of that amount of money is
I think about it too the same way. It's like
insane.
If that's 1,000 million. So for 3 years, every day for 3 years, somebody came and gave you a check for $1 million is like mind numbing. The first year alone, you can't, I mean, you have more money than you'd need for your 7th great grandchild, to the point that you can't, I don't think I could spend $365 million very easily.
No,
I would be very happy with $1 million. So it's like, like you said, like $1 billion. Yeah. It's like, that's weird. That's a weird number of dollars.
It is. Of course, if I had like 350 million, obviously I would tear down a historic section of a place that I'm in and then build a ballroom like Hitler. But that's just me. I don't know. But anyway, but having that be the statement of her being an alien and being so far removed from humanity, that's an interesting play. That's an interesting thing. But I also feel like from what I understand, that is similar to what happens in Save the Green Planet, which is also kind of frustrating to me because if that's the case, if it is very similar to that, what's the point of remaking it? And that goes into me talking about how that was a movie from 2003. This is a movie from 2025. Having it be the same thing, having it be the same kind of ending where this may be unfair because it's not necessarily like the movie is telling us to believe everything, or it's not necessarily doing that whole like, well, what if everything is really like this and everything? But it opens the door for that. It leaves the door open for that to the point that I'm frustrated with that ending because while it does give humanity its comeuppance because of it, it also is something that is reckless in a sense. Having, in this type of climate today, knowing that we went through the whole freaking QAnon thing with people talking about how celebrities and billionaires, but not that one billionaire that they voted for that's a pedophile, having allegedly, but release the files. But anyway, having like that whole QAnon thing leading to people like thinking that they were killing babies to get adrenochrome from them so that they can have like youthful like life source and everything, and like all of that bullshit has happened over the last like half decade. And to have this movie kind of start out by telling us that, oh, this is what it's like to talk to a completely insane person who is supporting a pedophile online. Like, this is it's insane to try to have a conversation with people that are so far removed from reality because they're living in their own reality that is molded for them by their algorithms and by social media, which is also could be the case with me, could be the case with all of us. That is what is dividing us is the algorithms and everything. But for this movie to be like, well, what if that's real though? Like, that just feels really tone deaf to like the time that it's being made in, especially when it kind of is purporting itself to be that kind of eat the rich movie that is inviting those kinds of social commentary and those conversations within the text. So
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know,
actually, that's a very valid point. I didn't think about like the quote unquote like danger of it all. Is like, you are right. That is like, it's like somebody who is on that kind of side could be like, they could watch that entire movie if that were, a real allegory for something, that there were really aliens or whatever. And somebody could really, in theory, watch a movie and forget about the whole rest of the point of it and not even worry about an hour and 50 and be like, you know what? This guy was fucking right though.
Right.
He was fucking right the whole time. You see, I don't care about her. I don't care about anything. Aliens were real. It's like, that isn't really the takeaway of the thing, is not that he was right. So,
yeah.
but you could like, those kind of people who are like affected by one piece of the algorithm that comes in, they could, it's like a lot of people, I don't want to put everybody into a bucket, but there are a lot of people that are like, I read that she was an alien. And it's like, all right, well, there's an hour and 57 minutes of lead up to the alien thing, right? No. He was right. She was an alien. Okay. So yeah. You're very right about that.
Yeah. And, obviously we're talking about this with the idea that, that people don't have, media literacy, which is something I've not found. I think everyone is completely media literate and is able to take on the messaging and everything of this movie. I don't think there's any chance of it being misinterpreted. I say that with a single tear rolling down my cheek.
And it's coming from the both of us who seemingly have a very similar viewpoint of it all. So it's like,
oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's easy to see from like this side that you know, it is that it is a very, it is kind of, the more I'm thinking about the movie, it is kind of a very interesting snapshot of this time, because
Yeah.
if we were talking to somebody who, you know, wanted to keep the files buried, somebody like
Mhm.
that, you know, then
Yep.
they would have taken a very different message from this movie, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that we should definitely consider when, when thinking about this movie. There was a point I was going to make, or a stupid joke I was going to make, but it's already left my mind. I can't remember. But as I alluded to in the non-spoiler, we have those like interstitial sort of title cards of like 2 days until the eclipse, so 1 day, whatever. And as it's going through, we're seeing the vision of the globe. And it is a globe, everyone. The planet slowly just becoming a flat Earth. And I think on one hand, being the idiot that I am, I like that that's a very like direct kind of showcase of like, okay, the movie is veering into more and more insane stuff until we reach the apex of it, where okay, we see the flat Earth. Now it's switching over into just completely insane, just conspiracy theory thing. This is the reality that these people live in. This is a flat Earth, and we're going to see Emma Stone speaking gibberish in space and then destroying all of humanity because we messed up. Um, and I like it as a visual cue. I like it as a visual marker of the kind of descent into more and more insane stuff. But I also kind of feel like it's maybe not needed because it was just kind of generally going that way anyway.
Right.
So what did you think of that aspect of it? And then we can kind of talk about the, the erasure of the human race at the
Yeah.
end.
No, yeah, I agree with you. It's everything is kind of ramping up already at that point. Like I was saying before, like however many minutes that last sequence is between sort of him killing him, his cousin killing himself,
Mhm.
and then the cop getting beat down with the shovel. While all these things are happening, he's running inside. Immediately, he's out riding his bike to quote unquote save his mother. Then he's back. Then she's tearing him down, and then they're into the. It's already at the point that you kind of understand. But one thing I was thinking about to what I was saying before, sort of the alien point of it all, is like sort of the way that it wraps there. It's still even like I knew. I like I said, I knew some part of me knew 30 minutes in that she was an alien, but even at the end there, she's like fiddle fucking around with the calculator.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's a 48 digit code and all this. And she's acting like really, like she's acting very like human and weird and strange about it for someone who is actually typing in the code. And then to find out that he like blows up because there was a static charge on his homemade bomb vest or whatever. Even still, I was like, so really, in the grand scheme of it, which is a really weird thing to think about, is like she was sending him up there. So he was gone. Like she didn't know he was going to blow up. So he was going to go up to the aliens. And that like had a weird point to me. Like when it ended, I thought, I'm like, he was about a second away from going there. So then where does that leave us?
That's really interesting because I kind of read that as like I read it as an interesting thing when she's inputting the numbers and everything. At that point, I still wasn't sure if she was an alien or not for real. But I kept thinking like, again, I was like, I see myself in her because like I would do some shit like that. Like if I was dealing with someone crazy like that, I would try to do the most to sell the fiction that I was trying to sell. Like, I would go into those extra details. Which if you've listened to the podcast, you know, I like going into tangents and extra details that are unnecessary. But the whole aspect of it where, he gets in the closet and he blows up. My read of that, my interpretation of that is that when the police or whoever say like, oh, we think that it was just a static charge or whatever, or the friction from his body is what set it off. I feel like that's the human rationalization of it. And I feel like what she was actually doing was to do that. She was programming it to
Blow
kill
up.
him.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
my read of it.
Yeah, I couldn't tell necessarily if it was like you could tell that she was like waffling, like you were saying, she was like waffling for time while somebody's coming. But like to me, I couldn't understand like is she just waffling to the point that like the cops are gonna come and then like bust the door down and like take him away in handcuffs? Did she mean to kill him, or like was she out of time? Like she was waffling to the point that he's in the closet. So to me, I was thinking like she basically figured somebody would come through the barricade or something while he was in the closet. Like in my head, I was thinking, okay, she's still not an alien. The police are going to come in. That's the end of this. So I was like, at that point, I was like, maybe when you realize that she's an alien, I was like, maybe she really did run out of time. And she was like, there's no more time for me to do this. It wouldn't have mattered probably in the grand scheme anyway. I don't know. The aliens could have killed him or probed him or whatever they wanted to do anyway if he went there. But to me, I was thinking like maybe she did just run out of time and she was just going to send him up there and then they're not going to send him back, you know? So it's like there is a lot going on there at the end for everybody. Quite a eventful like last until the gibberish alien part. There is a lot of stuff going on there in the last like 20 something minutes.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's a read of this movie that I've seen that is kind of positing that she maybe suffered a concussion. And like the end of the movie is her experiencing that concussion and like having maybe not necessarily a fever dream of doing this, but like the point of her escaping from the ambulance, running to her office, going into the closet and being beamed up until all of that. There's a read of it where that's a concussion and that's just her like believing whatever. And then the actual ending is that she's imagining her being queen and eradicating all of humankind. And I like that read of it. I don't think that that's the actual. I think the movie offers a literal end that is to be taken literally, but I do think it's an interesting enough sort of it's a pretty interesting read of it to have it be about to be this ambiguous thing, that it is open to being slightly more ambiguous than a more literal ending invites it to seem like, if that makes sense. But I think that's an interesting read of it, and I do wish that there was a little bit more ambiguity to it with that, because I think that if you subscribe to that interpretation of it, I think that there's an interest. I don't even know if I would say interesting thing. The rationalization of that would be that her experience, having gone through this experience and escaping, has left her imagining being the actual queen alien person and wanting to destroy all of humanity. But if she's just suffering a concussion, this is just a showcase of like how she has changed. Like, she didn't care about people before because she's a billionaire that's out of touch with humanity and has all of these sound bites to justify how her and her company have wreaked havoc on human people and the bee population and everything. She's gone from that to just outright wanting to destroy humanity because she's angry. I think there's an interesting read of that on that level, but I wish the movie would have left us up more for ambiguity and interpretation that way, because I do think it is more, the ending is meant to be taken more literally than that. So what do you think of that theory?
Yeah, she does take a head to the head. So that would be valid. Yeah, I do. I could see that as like, you know, if she is kind of that kind of person, she is like a ruthless, sort of billionaire woman, that maybe that is And she even says at some point, I think when she's like choking him out, she kind of makes like she like says the quiet part out loud once in the movie
Yes.
when she says something like, you're a loser and I'm a winner, when she's like choking him out. And that's like really the first time that she like really, you can tell that she has like a lot of disdain for the guy, obviously, but like
Yeah.
that's where you really feel like, oh, okay, she just obviously thinks she's better than everyone, and that could lend credence to like, oh, I'm having a fever dream that I'm literally more powerful than everyone, which some people have current fever dreams like that run our country and stuff. So
Right.
that is possible. I do wonder, I was just thinking while you were talking, I do wonder if like an interesting ending that would have really been more just up for interpretation would have been if she sort of got into the closet and, you know, we saw the beam of light or whatever, and then the movie ended.
Yeah.
I think that would have been an interesting part to think about of like, all right, well, now I have no idea what's real and what's not, is who's right or who's wrong, or if she's out of it or what's going on there. Kind of would have left it a lot less literal than, like you said, like we get a, you know, a 3.5 minute montage. You said bringing it up now, sort of after that's all done, you get about a 3.5 minute montage of everyone who's dead in the whole world in doing whatever they were doing, if they were flying a plane or riding a boat or having sex or whatever they were doing. And you do get that. And so it's kind of hard to take it any other way when you see that scene.
Yeah, absolutely. And that did leave me with a thought. And this is a nothing thought really, but it just made me think, because she talks in that kind of just outburst at him about how it's a how they got rid of the dinosaurs and they experienced the dinosaurs and everything. It just made me think, like, in this scenario, humanity has been just instantaneously just killed. Like, I just thought, like, the archaeology of it all, like thousands of years later, like the next life form that roams the planet, like I just wondered like what the artifacts would be, because you have like this very developed, you know, human society in these very just random ass positions. And I don't know, it's the kind of thing that made me think of it. Made me think of the I think like the Science Channel or Discover Channel. What was that called? Like humans left the earth or whatever, like if after humans or something, where it's like the whole thing is like, what would happen to the infrastructures of the world if humanity just was gone? Yeah, I don't know. That
is
was a
interesting.
thing.
You find there's enough to be found from whatever 10,000 years ago in a sarcophagus in a tomb that you understand we can somehow piece together like the entire ancient Egyptian processes from that's 10,000 years ago. You're right. It's like, what would they be thinking? I did have one question for you. One thing that I was wondering is like the whole symbolism of it all with the second flashback when he's sort of sort of remembering the thought when she kind of everything sort of comes together there when she's basically telling him that we did an experiment on your mother that failed and we'll take care of paying for it all, and I didn't realize that she was still alive really until
me neither
that point. But it was interesting that, she's taking care of it, but he has her like floating up on like a tether. And
yes,
I was kind of curious about like what you took that. I didn't quite find like a clear symbolism for that.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I'm going to put on my obnoxious cinephile hat and say two things. One is that I felt that visually it was very reminiscent of Fellini's 8.5. Have you seen that?
Mm.
Okay, so we covered it on the podcast like years ago when we did the Ebert's Great Movies reviews, but I remember there being like it's a very beautiful, stunning movie, where it's all kind of dreamlike. And in that movie, there is a shot of him, like the main guy being like on the top. I think it's like the top of a ladder that goes to nowhere, and it's shot from like the same kind of perspective that Lanthimos used for that scene, but from that angle where it's like kind of up and you're looking down and you're seeing like this great chasm between the person on the ground and the person at the top. And I think that first of all, it was definitely a or wait, was it? No, it was. I almost said 8 millimeter. No, it was 8.5. 8 millimeter is a very different movie, um, but um, with that in this movie, I think that it is very much a yeah. I think it's very much a visual reference to 8.5 as kind of an homage, but I think on the more subtext level, on the actual meaning behind it, I think that it's a very evocative and interesting image to bring forth because it is showing it's compiling the dialogue of her trying to comfort him, which obviously given the kind of conversations that happen in the movie, like that's, I get the sense that like it didn't happen that way. Like this is a fantasy sequence, like, and the way it really happened, I would purport to believe, is that this was a statement that she made to all of the people, like all of the people that were affected, but having it be this interpretation of it where she's in front of him and talking specifically to him while he is holding on to his mother, being just tethered to like being up in the sky. I think that that's a very powerful image because it is showing that while she is trying to comfort him in her billionaire way of saying like, yeah, we're going to pay for all the medical treatment and everything, and, you know, our bad, he's experiencing this thing where it's like, oh, his mother is in this limbo of not being alive, or not being like she's not being able to die because she's in a coma because of the actions of this company. And I just think that it's a very interesting visual metaphor. That was my read of it and everything. And I'm going to take the obnoxious cinephile hat off and stare longingly at my Seven Samurai poster.
No, that's fair. Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, I did think it's a very like powerful thing because the way that it's shot too, it's like black and white, one, and then two, it's like you said, like a chasm between like her and him, but there's also like a big, like the way it's shot, there is like a feeling of distance between like Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons in that scene as well. Like they're obviously standing like very close to each other, but the way that it's shot, like she's so far up there, and the way that it's like pulled back, it looks like they're standing like very far apart when they're on like the same side of like a fountain. So it was like it's almost like to the point that he's like, I don't remember if the scene like fades out into him not even listening to her, but that's sort of what it feels like. Is you're like, I was like watching the scene so intently that I stopped like listening. I heard her talk about like, we're doing the trials and some of them don't go our way and we'll obviously pay for it. But she keeps talking and I like don't even remember what she says in the remainder of the scene because I was sort of like captivated by how they shot that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think it's one of those things that, again, it kind of goes back to what I was kind of saying about Yorgos Lanthimos as a filmmaker and his kind of trajectory that he's taken, because that is, again, I feel like this is going to be maybe sound a little bit reductive, but the mainstream aspect of Yorgos Lanthimos now, like having him do these movies and slowly becoming more and more accessible and more kind of mainstream, like that particular scene, that particular visual like metaphor that he makes in that moment feels like a more conventional visual metaphor than like anything I saw in Dogtooth, which was just really, really weird and out there, but unique and out there. So I don't know if this is if kind of speaking about Lanthimos as a filmmaker, I don't know if this is him just kind of already having that kind of I don't know if esoteric is the right word, but like having that very kind of abstract, sort of very distinctive weirdness out of his system, to where he's now doing more kind of conventional weirdness.
Sure, yeah.
Or maybe he's trying to do like more 4-quadrant weirdness. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean this is a movie that like you could like, if you know somebody who's like, you know, into movies enough. Like I guess I'm a decent example. I've seen enough movies. I haven't seen too many all-time great classics and things that are, you know, here and there, but like for me this is like it kind of like hits like an artsy weirdness box that like I'm not going to see in any other movie that I'm going to go see. And it's like you said, it is like mainstream enough that I'm like, all right, if he's going to release another movie in 3 years, I'm going to go see it now.
Yeah.
Cause now I'm just interested enough. But like, even like the Lobster, for like, if I was going to talk to somebody about a movie I have seen, I would very rarely, even if they were like, I want to see like I'm in for the night, I want to see something a little fucked up. I'd be like, I got a couple that you can watch, but I would never be like, you know what a good one is The Lobster. Because you're not going to come out, you don't come out of that one feeling like positive, or I mean, you don't come out of this one feeling positive, but at least you sort of get the point of it, and then, you know, go home and go to bed. Whereas like some of that weird darker stuff, I'm like that was like troubling in a inside my body kind of way.
Oh, totally.
Even like Poor Things is sort of, I mean, that one toes the line of like, there's parts where I'm like, this is really going in a bad way. I'm like, I don't know where we're going to end this. And this is getting like troubling to a fault. And then, you know, he reins it back in, I guess, by the end of that one. But
sure.
Yeah, he's definitely got, his brain functions in a different way than most.
Absolutely. And I think that's about as good a compliment as we can give him. He's a kind of, I wouldn't even say he's necessarily that much of a polarizing filmmaker, but he's definitely a unique one still, even as he kind of gets more accessible in his Oscar bait age.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and to wrap up our review, because we've gone long on this,
Sure.
Have you seen Dogtooth, by the way?
I have not, but now I'm going to.
Okay. Yeah, I would be very curious to see what you think of that, because that was a movie that it's weird, but it's a really interesting story. I'll say that much. So, yeah.
I believe it.
Yep. So to reset once again, what did you rate Bugonia, and is this going to make like any top 10 lists you may make at the end of the year, or where is this ranking in your year of movies?
Yeah, I rated it 4 stars, and you know, just in a way that, like I was saying, in a way that it's going to be like fundamentally unlike the other movies that I've seen, and but also in like a weird way that I think this has been like a really weird you wouldn't call it like a horror. It's like it's a black comedy, but it's there is like some terror there in a year where there's like been a lot of really unique like movies that have had very unique perspectives on like terror and horror elements. It takes like a completely other turn in like in a weird way. So it's gonna probably be one of the most unique movies, you know, that I'll have seen this year.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yep. As I said at the beginning, I mean, it was out of the theater. It was something that I would probably consider for my top 10, but I don't know. It's one of those that I'm going to have to circle back when I'm looking toward making my top 10 and my end of year stuff, and see how I feel about it on a second watch, which is, yeah, So that's a way for me to scapegoat out of this.
It's fair. Yeah, I mean, I feel like
But,
it was a very good movie. I feel like
yeah.
we were fairly critical of like the
Mhm.
some of the pieces that required that kind of just like dialogue about it, but
Yeah.
I mean, for just to watch like some wonderful writing and acting, the first like hour and change is
Mhm.
some of the best you're going to see between those two, and they'll probably
Absolutely.
be very happy at awards time too. So
Yep. Yep. And when you said that when when you said that if he makes another movie in a few years, you'll see it and everything, my immediate thought was like, yeah, because I want to keep up with Emma Stone's career too. So so that is our review of Bugonia. Once again, it is in theaters. And yeah, we're going to do probably a brief secondary review here in a moment of Black Phone 2, which is also in theaters. But before we get to that, I want to take a quick moment to remind you that if you like the show, please take a moment to follow us on social media and subscribe to and rate the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, or whatever your preferred podcast app is. Also, subscribe to the Obsessive Viewer Podcast YouTube channel as well, where I'm posting more videos and video versions of the podcast. And also join Patreon at either a free or paid level to get access to a bunch of content, including live streams, which I did a very poor job of promoting this one. So I'm going to do better about that. But check that out, patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. And if you're interested in starting a podcast of your own, you can go to Libsyn and use promo code OBSESS. When you sign up for a new account, you'll get up to 2 months free, depending on when you sign up, and we'll get a commission on it as well. More details on that in the show notes of this episode. And now back to the show.
They tell me I view obsessively.
Okay, here is a clip from the trailer for Black Phone 2.
They found a way to kill me yet. Eyes burn with stinging sweat.
I had a bad dream.
Seems every path leads me to nowhere.
All right, and Black Phone 2 is currently in theaters. It premiered in theaters on October 7th or 12th, and it is the sequel to The Black Phone from a year that is not 2025. The premise, according to, I think it was 2022, maybe. But the premise, according to IMDb, is as Finn, now 17, struggles with life after his captivity, his sister begins receiving calls in her dreams from the Black Phone and seeing disturbing visions of 3 boys being stalked at a winter camp known as Alpine Lake. Director for this movie was Scott Derrickson. Writers were C. Robert Cargill and Scott Derrickson, of course, based on characters from the novella of Joe Hill, called The Black Phone. There we go. Jesus. The cast includes Mason Thames, Ethan Hawke, Madeline McGraw, Jeremy Davies, Miguel Mora, Ariana Rivas, and Damien Bishar. So, Keegan, before we get into our thoughts on Black Phone 2, how did you feel about the original The Black Phone? And did you read the short story as well?
I did not read the short story, but I quite liked The Black Phone. I thought it was like unique in its own way. I thought the premise was good enough, but that I guess Scott Derrickson did I think he did a really good job of like evoking kind of like he did a very good job with kind of like there is a phone that rings and there's dead people on the line is your premise, and then you have to go from there. And I thought he did like a really good job. And obviously Ethan Hawke is quite incredible, and the masks and stuff that sort of convey his emotions and things that were made by that the Pittsburgh guy, Tom Savini.
Mhm.
I thought that was it did a good job of it wasn't particularly like scary in terms of a horror movie, but it did evoke like enough like dread and fear that I quite liked, and the kind of uniqueness of the premise was, you know, good enough that I liked the movie pretty well.
Nice. It's funny because I feel like I am maybe a bit of maybe not an outlier with a black phone, but I feel like I saw a lot of a decent amount of people kind of just thinking like, it's fine or it's bad even. For me, the original The Black Phone I thought was really good. I feel like I rated it 3.5 stars. We reviewed it on the podcast years ago, but as an adaptation of the short story by Joe Hill, I think that it did a great job of expanding on things. There was one element of the original movie, it being Gwen's dream stuff, that is not in the original story. And at the time, with the first movie, I thought, okay, this feels like they're adding this element to the plot to just pad it out because it's adapting a short story, and they need something else to kind of to expand it into like a feature narrative. Um, I no longer feel that way because this movie exists and because the VHS 85 segment that Scott Derrickson directed, Dreamkill, which is, I believe it is in this universe. It is in the Black Phone universe. It's canonically in the Black Phone universe. Expands on that. The whole idea of dreams. It is very much taking a cue from obviously like Wes Craven and A Nightmare on Elm Street, but doing its own unique thing with it. And I think that the way that this movie expands that from the first movie and expands it into being a Gwen story instead of a Finn story, I think is really compelling and interesting. And I liked it. Yeah. Yeah, let's dig into Black Phone 2 in non-spoilers.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot more I thought it was a lot scarier for that kind of word. I thought they rely a little bit on like jump scares and things, but in terms of like psychologically in many ways, and kind of like these interspersed they do a lot of like interspersed flashbacks and things like that, and just like sort of cut scenes quickly to a variety of things that were a little from like the grotesque to just it had like a little more lingering feeling of like terror than the first one for me, which I did enjoy. There was some things I like the obviously there's an obvious in this one a very obvious Nightmare on Elm Street kind of comparison here, as sort of he's whole, the grabber is sort of whole from her dreams and things. So there's that whole kind of thing. I thought a little bit towards the second or like even second or third act, it got a little away from it to the point that it was getting a little like mystical and sort of magical in its take on it. So I think that the first part and coming up to they end up going to the lake. I don't think that's much of a spoiler, but
Right.
where the movie takes place really. I thought kind of all that lead up to there was really good. I thought it was sufficiently psychologically tugging. I thought there was like a fair amount of comedy in this one too that I didn't. There was very little in the first one, and what's his name, Ernesto? I think he was like a good foil character.
Yeah.
And even just like the characters at the lake, the way they interact with the ownership group, and I thought there were some funny scenes in there and stuff. Yeah, I just thought that sort of the final part, heading into the final part, there's sort of like a scene where it sort of moves into like a Nightmare on Elm Street territory, and then it gets a little, to me, it got a little out over its heels on like the the magic and the mysticism of the whole thing.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I will definitely agree with you there. It does get to a point like again, not spoiling it, but the way that where this movie leads, it feels a little bit, weirdly enough, it reminded me a little bit of like It Chapter 2, with it being very much kind of having this kind of MacGuffin almost, in terms of like, oh, they need to do this thing. They need to, like, in order to save Gwen and in order to stop the grabber from beyond the grave, they need to do this for the history of Alpine Lake, and they need to unearth this. It reminded me of like It Chapter 2, where they had to find trinkets to have like the little sacrifice to get to it. And that is a shame, because I also feel like that, since it is so integral to the plot and the history of this lake, this camp that they're building out, I wish that there was a little bit more emphasis on that. But despite that, I think that it does a really good job of marrying the backstory of Alpine Lake with the experience of like Finn and Gwen and their family. Like, without going into spoilers, the way that things connect in this movie made me like, throughout the movie I was thinking like, okay, well, that's a bit of a stretch. Like, really? Like, we're doing this? And then by the time it kind of wraps itself up, I'm like, that was actually pretty clean. That was pretty, like, I respect that. I respect that it's not even necessarily retconning, but I respect that expansion of what we already know from the first movie in a way that I feel is a pretty compelling, a pretty compelling way to kind of show us the truth,
Yeah.
or a lot of stuff there. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I was kind of in and out on both of those things. Like you said,
Mhm.
the first part, I liked that all of the threads got like tied together. I really
Mhm.
liked that part, but I did sort of think that, like, the first part of what you said, I was like, all right, so the way that they're fitting everything together, it is like a bit of a stretch to get there. It's nice that
Mhm.
it's all wrapped up in a bow, but I did sort
Mhm.
of feel like, I was like, all right, well, did we need to go like that far to get to each
Right.
each knot in the thread, sort of like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally. Totally. Um, the motivation of the grabber I thought was very interesting. Having like that being a shift between from like the reason behind the shift to now targeting Gwen is really compelling and interesting to me. One of the downsides to the movie another kind of criticism of the movie really is that I didn't find it as unsettling as the first movie, specifically because that first movie does a lot of really good work to make suburban America like terrifying, because of the location, a basement that no one suspects has a child in it that's being murdered. That is a very terrifying proposition, and having it be set in like the past and everything, like, it is very much evocative of the era that it's depicting, and including that kind of helplessness of the situation. And it's just a very eerie, unsettling thing. When you're transposing that to having a fairly, I would say fairly kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like formulaic, not even formulaic, but kind of tropish sort of setting of, oh, they're isolated at this lake with limited supplies, limited people, and no one is coming to their rescue or anything. That feels a little bit like it's just a big difference. It's a big gap from having like suburban everyday, USA, to isolated campground that we never really get a sense of in terms of what the layout is and everything. It feels like it's very much trying to be evocative of like Friday the 13th while also borrowing from A Nightmare on Elm Street and all of that. So I don't know. I feel like there was I don't even know if I would say a missed opportunity, but I feel like there was something missing for me in terms of really diving into the unsettling nature of things. So it's a bummer. So I think that's kind of where I am in terms of comparing this to the first one. I think the first one is superior in the mood and atmosphere. And this is pretty good as a story that expands it and hopefully wraps it up. Like I came
Yeah.
away from this movie thinking like, this is a really good movie, really good duology with a short film in the middle from VHS 85. I don't need any more Black Phone stuff. This is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Like for a movie that really, like the end of Black Phone really it doesn't really call for a sequel. And for them
Yeah.
to like do it did kind of read like they had like a little more story to tell and they just really wanted to tell it, as opposed to like making Friday the 13th number 7 or whatever we're on or whatever they're doing. Yeah, that's a very valid point of like there was like story here that it seemed like the director and everybody they wanted to tell this last piece of it, wrap it up, and for a movie that really didn't call for like needing a sequel or anything. It's not like a money grab. It's not It was more Black Phone. It was just like it's like I don't need like a weapons too, it's like
Yeah.
And to do it, they did do like a very admirable job of and like you said, like I was just thinking like for as good as a movie in my opinion like Cabin in the Woods is, like the whole name of the movie is kind of like a play. It's a farce on like, it's a cabin in the woods. They're gonna go out there and get killed, and like that's like, yeah, it's like they could have put like a subtitle and called it like Murder on Lake, whatever the heck it's called, Alpine Lake. It's like,
yeah.
All right, we get it. We know you're going up. You are right. It's like, and I did love like really that whole ending really of the Black Phone of like she's having those dreams, but and they paid off, but in sort of the wrong way because she didn't really pick up the right house. So it's like holy crap. So even after all that, and even after they found the bodies, if it wasn't for Finn getting out of there, then in theory, they don't find him necessarily. I mean, they eventually probably, but it is kind of terrifying to say like, if nobody made it out of there, then his burial house is gone, but like the dungeon's not. So, that is like a horrifying thing to think about. But yeah, I agree with everything you said. It was a good enough sequel for a movie that never really called for it, and and hopefully that's that.
Yeah, I agree. And it's funny because coming off of the Black Phone, and knowing the source material, Joe Hill's short story, like I went into Black Phone 2 thinking it was going to be like a cash grab thing. Like, oh, Black Phone was successful, they're going to make another one. They're going to franchise it. They're doing a whole thing. And I even thought, like when I saw Dreamkill from VHS 85, like I thought like, oh, this is too good of a premise for a VHS segment. This should have been its own feature-length film. And I still kind of feel like that would have maybe been a better Black Phone 2 movie. But I also kind of think that it should have I got distracted. I'm so sorry. Black Phone 2
I need to see VHS 1985, I think.
It's really good. So Dreamkill is a segment that is directed by Scott Derrickson, and it is about a 1985 police guy, a detective who receives these VHS tapes to the station, showing a murder that hasn't happened yet. And it's really, really cool. It's really cool the way that it plays out. And so anyway, to get back to kind of my point, so to get back to my point and everything, I really think that this movie is better than it had any right to be, because I expected it to be a cash grab, because they exhausted the story. They exhausted the story of Finn and the grabber, because I know the source material. I know that they went through that entire storyline. Which is maybe not a fair thing to go into a sequel about, but I was impressed with the way that it does tie into the first movie and expand on it. But again, that caveat, I'll say that with the caveat that, like, okay, let's pump the brakes now. We're done. We don't need a whole franchise. This is a good conclusion to the story. Let's keep it at that. So
yeah, I would really, what we really don't need is like a spin-off or like a
right
30 years later type deal or something. That's
right.
I do. Yeah. That's it's basically what I was saying before, like to the point of like that he must have clearly had the idea with the dream kill and all that there was ideas in there, and he said, all right, I can make one more movie that's serviceable enough that will clean. Yeah. I mean, it is interesting when the bad guy is literally dead.
Yeah.
To be like, we're gonna make another movie with the bad guy.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, he won, but
yeah, which I think is really interesting too, that they that dream kill exists, because like I said, it is in the Black Phone universe, but it's really expanding upon that dream aspect of it, that supernatural aspect of it. It doesn't have anything to do with the grabber, anything from the Joe Hill story. It's just kind of an interesting exploration of that supernatural thing. And I think in a separate universe, there is a version of that where that is Black Phone 2. And I think that is interesting, because that would basically mean that Scott Derrickson had this idea and attached it to the Black Phone, and then would use that to make something that's his idea. But anyway, that's all hypothetical. I liked Black Phone 2 as a wrap up to the story, and I don't need any more. But honestly, now that I'm saying it out loud, I think it would be interesting to see him do something that's like Dreamkill, but in a feature length. That's in the universe of Black Phone, but doesn't have anything to do with Grabber or Finn or even Gwen. Just straight up weird supernatural stuff. So
yeah, he does seem to have enough ideas there that I wouldn't be like sad to see another similar vein to horror, or even if he has ideas that are adjacent but don't even require it to be in the Black Phone universe per se, to just see him make another cool movie, another like decent supernatural kind of horror movie that's outside of this. It seems like he has ideas that are ready to continue doing that. I mean, he's been doing it for some time. So
oh, absolutely. And the final thing I'll say about Black Phone 2 is I thought for a moment, because I recently rewatched VHS 85, and I remember from the Black Phone 1, I've not seen Sinister or Sinister 2, but there is this just visual style that he has. Like, I knew going in, like, oh, this is a Scott Derrickson movie, so the opening credits are going to be like David Fincher-esque Seven opening credits with like scratchy sound, scratchy audio, like a record, and just like really just like crazy imagery and everything. So I knew that going in, and then I thought like, oh, okay, yeah, this is like his staple. This is his thing that he does in all of his like horror movies. And I thought like, oh, it's gonna wear thin, because I assume, or I think I know that that's also the style that he employs with like the Sinister movies. Correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen them. Okay. But I was really kind of enamored with it. Like, it's very, I think it really helps with it being a period piece. This is set in the 80s, and it just having that just like antique feel is really really good. So it was interesting, because I went into it expecting to be like, okay, this is his bag of tricks. It's getting old at this point. but like as it's going, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm kind of feeling this. It's good. Yeah. So, that's my official position on the visual stylings of Scott Derrickson.
To wrap that all up with my last point, I think too, what you're saying there, I did, there are some like flashbacks to the 50s that he took a really cool, really interesting like visual approach to that. You know, I quite liked those sort of like the 1950s scenes where like shaky camera and kind of grainy. You very easily can tell when we are in the movie. So
yes,
the visual style I thought was very good.
Absolutely. So I don't really have much else to say about Black Phone 2. I mean, I think it's good. I think it's good. I rated it 3.5 stars. Same as the Black Phone, but I would give the edge to the Black Phone in terms of these two movies. But I thought it was okay. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I gave it 3 stars, and for the same reasons. I did the end got away from me, which probably would have had me bump it up a little bit more. But yeah,
Sure.
totally fine movie. If it was on TBS one night or something,
Sure.
I'd probably watch it again.
Nice. All right. Well, that is our review of Black Phone 2. Yeah, I thank you so much, Keegan, for joining me for this episode and being a guinea pig for the live stream. And thank you to everyone on Patreon who joined the live stream and watched. The complete live stream video will be up on Patreon as well. But the actual proper video podcast of it will be on YouTube, hopefully tying in with the audio release on Thursday morning. So yeah, but anyway, Keegan, thank you so much. Is there anything you want to promote? Anything that you want to, like, where can people find you online? And, any last words? Jesus.
I'm about to be killed. No, I mean, yeah, I still need to go through and beef up this letterbox. I'm still trying to think of movies that I've seen and stuff. Letterbox is there, KEE King 89, and yeah, basically, the only way anybody can find me is probably in 3 months or something. If you'll have me back again on another one. So
yeah, absolutely. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm going to wind down the episode. So that's it for this week's episode of The Obsessive Viewer. As always, thank you so much for listening, and make sure to follow the show on social media and subscribe to the podcast on your preferred podcast app. Also, check out Obsessive Viewer Podcast's other shows, Tower Junkies, a Stephen King podcast hosted by Tiny and myself, and Anthology, the Twilight Zone and classic sci-fi podcast hosted by me. Next week on the show, the plan is Predator Badlands and maybe In Your Dreams, the Netflix movie. Depends if I make the screening tomorrow. We'll see. But until next week, thank you so much for listening and watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Tell me I view obsessively.